Good afternoon, Mr. Payen. Today I would like to present you Garibaldi and the Risorgimento. I was with a class, there are 3 questions. The water program presents 3 intervenants. Lucy Real, at the European University Institute, Professor of History of Europe in the World. Eugenio Baggini, at the University of Cambridge, Professor of Modern and Contemporary History. And David Laven, at the University of Nottingham, Associate Professor of History. Okay, let's go for 16 minutes. Go. In 1815, Metternich defined Italy as a mere geographical expression. In 1870, the peninsula is a unified political entity. This Italian nationalist process of the 19th century, called the Risorgimento, was motivated by such essential figures as Victor Emmanuel II, Cavour, Mazzini, and Giuseppe Garibaldi. After the defeat of Napoleon, the Congress of Vienna made Italy a fragmented peninsula in several states under Austrian influence: the Kingdom of Piedmont-Sardinia, Tuscany, Modena, Parma, the Papal States, and the Kingdom of the 2 Sicilies. Lombardy and Veneto were not independent, but were in the Austrian Empire. The 19th century was marked by several major events that motivated the Risorgimento: the revolt of the Spring of Nations in 1848 against Austria and the Church, the alliance with France, the battles won at Magenta and Solferino were all the conquest from southern Italy by Garibaldi and his red shirts. Giuseppe Garibaldi was born on July 4 in 1807 in a family of sailors in Nice. His mother wanted to make him a priest, but he began a maritime career. Garibaldi crossed the road of political exiles and saw events as an interested spectator before fully engaging politically and militarily in the reunification of Italy. Based on his personal history, his struggles and his relations with the other fathers of Italian unity, can we say that Garibaldi was a real political actor or a mere pawn? First, I'm going to study Garibaldi's youth and his first political commitments to understand who is the man in 1860. Then I'm going to study this character as a symbol of the Risorgimento. Finally, I'm going to confront the visions of Garibaldi's Italian unity with that of the other father of the Italian nation. The youth and first political commitments. Garibaldi made 2 decisive encounters. The first is Barrow, a guide of a group of Saint-Simonian exiles whose main idea was the link between humanity and nation. Garibaldi reconciled these 2 notions in his struggle for the liberty of the peoples and fought for the emancipation of the Italians within the same country. The other was the one who is called the believer or the young leaguer in the Garibaldi's memoir. He was a Mazzinian militant who seduced him by his qualities of speaker and his argument on the necessity of a leader. In the Italian case, this leader was Giuseppe Mazzini. In the 1830s, after obtaining his brevet as a captain, Garibaldi joined Mazzini movement. This movement was Giovine Italia, which conspired in favor of Italian unity and against the Austrian influence. Nicknamed Borel, he expressed his sympathy for the revolutionary cause, but was denounced and forced into exile. He left to Rio de Janeiro. Garibaldi remained 12 years in South America, where he fought alongside the rebels of Rio Grande do Sul and Uruguay, which taught him the war and the Republican faith. As part of the South American branch of Giovine Italia, Garibaldi remained in contact with the Mazzini ideas of reunification of Italy in the form of a democratic republic. He became leader of the band, which will troops on the ground Legion Italiana during the war in Uruguay, in which he participated between 1841 and 1848 before returning to Italy. This experience of guerrilla was important because it allowed Garibaldi to be extremely effective during the Italian reunification movements and gave him a real sense of leadership on various Italian fronts. For example, he was experienced from the tactical and practical point of view, especially during the defeat of General Gio in 1860, or as regards the hygiene of the soldiers. Finally, Garibaldi was the man between military command and political action. In 1849, Garibaldi returned to Italy. The reputation of Garibaldi was made by the command of the famous Red Shirts, Garibaldian Legion, who fight for the freedom and the Italian unification. His election to the Constituent Assembly showed that the leader of the Red Shirts is acclaimed not only as a legion leader but also as a politician. He led the expedition of the Fazent in March 1860, a military operation that consisted of reaching Sicily by sea from Piedmont and seizing the kingdom of two Sicilies by sea. This kingdom was led by the Bourbons. The expedition was a success, and Garibaldi became a political leader after the capture of Sicily. Here there is the map with the road of Garibaldi from Sardinia to Rome, and the operation in Sicily against the army of the Bourbon. Garibaldi, a symbol of the Risorgimento. The Garibaldi's life was dedicated to the unification of Italy, as evidenced by his many travels throughout the country, moving to new places to liberate and unify. But where he sometimes forgot the real concerns of the Italian people and the reality of the current situation in Italy. Indeed, for example, in 1861, Garibaldi was concerned about the situation in Rome, still under the papal authority. For this, he went to Sicily to galvanize the crowds, but Garibaldi forgot that Sicily in this period was more concerned with achieving a decent standard of living rather than the unification of Italy and conquer Rome or the Veneto. Garibaldi, by his status of hero of the two worlds, was acclaimed in the world. Hero of the two worlds because he accomplished great facts in South America and in Italy. Two events particularly contribute to his fame: his role in the defense of Montevideo in Uruguay as leader of the Red Shirts, and the victory of his legion against the Argentine army in San Antonio del Salto on February 8 in 1848. This fame allowed him to obtain support in his fight for the unification of Italy, and thanks to the faith of Victor Emmanuel II. There was an international plebiscite enjoyed by Garibaldi, but also the importance of the national struggle and the stakes of the reunification of Italy for its European neighbors. Finally, Garibaldi was a living legend. Indeed, the heroism of Garibaldi was made in 1835 when he was condemned to death for having participated in a Republican plot as a young militant. Then, with the Latin American War and their echoes in Italy and in Europe. His particular physique appearance and his accoutrements played a lot. Indeed, the Garibaldi was recognizable thanks to his poncho and his ginger beard. Garibaldi and the father of the nation. There were different visions of the Italian unity. Mazzini can indeed be considered as the first teacher to think of Garibaldi in terms of politics. But the ideas of the two men moved away a first time when, in 1855, Garibaldi decided to rally to the monarchy of Victor Emmanuel II, then met with the expedition of the Thousand in 1860. However, Mazzini advocated a general insurrection, unlike Garibaldi. In London, Mazzini said of Garibaldi that he was the living incarnation of his great ideas. Part of Garibaldi's actions is based on his famous formula Italia e Vittorio Emanuele, which summarized the dedication of Garibaldi. This special relationship of devotion to the sovereign also shows that Garibaldi was acting not for his own sake, but for a sovereign. For example, after the liberation of Sicily, Garibaldi proclaimed himself dictator in the name of Victor Emmanuel. In 1860, Cavour asked to Garibaldi to lead the Piemontese army to march on Naples and Sicily. However, there was a difference of point of view between Cavour and Cavour was a minister of Victor Emmanuel, and Garibaldi, because Cavour preferred that the troops gathered in the central of the country with a defensive position. However, Garibaldi preferred an offensive operation in Sicily and an offensive operation to march on Naples. Moreover, Garibaldi did not forgive Cavour for having ceded the county of Nice his native territory to Napoleon III, because France helped Victor Emmanuel during the battles of Magenta and Solferino. An army leader whose pursuit is ideal whatever the cost. The war defined Garibaldi's identity. Indeed, he said that the war was the true nature of man. Garibaldi was pragmatic. In early June 1861, Garibaldi was determined more than ever to work on Rome. His plan was to build an army in the former kingdom of the Two Sicilies, against the advice of the government. He also wanted to connect Venice to the kingdom of Italy under the major influence of Victor Emmanuel, the sovereign of Piedmont, Sardinia. The use of Garibaldi by politicians. Victor Emmanuel II used Garibaldi to do military work and not take a position directly. Question: Garibaldi was an opportunity or a real ally? His strategy was to ensure Garibaldi his support before asking him to procrastinate, and finally gave up his project because the king had to deal with his French ally, with the example of Magenta and Solferino. For example, during the preparation of the Epic of the Thousand, Garibaldi received a batch of 1,500 old rifles, but these rifles were not usable. The affair of these rifles revealed a duplicity of the royal government with regard to Garibaldi and his volunteers. Moreover, after this meeting with the king on October 26th in 1860 in Canaiello, Victor Emmanuel II did not show gratitude for Garibaldi. He put distance with him. So Victor Emmanuel II, Giuseppe Mazzini, and Camillo Cavo, the minister, the main minister of Victor Emmanuel II. To conclude, Garibaldi died in Caprera on June 2nd in 1882. Tributes came from all over the world. The Kingdom of Italy has been unified in 1861 and second process in 1870 because during 10 years Napoleon III refused to give Rome to Victor Emmanuel because Napoleon didn't want have bad relations with the Catholics in France. And with the defeat of Napoleon III in 1870, the French army left Rome, and the Italian army could take the position, take the city. Garibaldi has accomplished the work of his life. Even before dying, Garibaldi already incarned the Italian unification, and without reducing Garibaldi to an image of Epinal as leader of the Red Shirts fighting for Italy, we must qualify the life of the hero of the two worlds, and the difficulty for Italy to unify around Victor Emmanuel II and the tricolor flag. Indeed, there were differences between the north of the country and the south. Garibaldi presents several faces: leader or puppet, reformer or revolutionary, and warrior or pacifist. Several debates exist today. So this question opens a reflection about the place of Garibaldi in the Italian history, but also on a more modern question involving the independentist claims of certain Italian counties. So, go 16 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Payan, and goodbye.